Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Tim. So public input session. And I believe we only have one member of the public.
Mhm. I do have some comments I can read.
Okay.
Okay, so these are related to the Norman Skill Room opening for browsing. And so that happened on October 7th. So these comments are from October 7th to the 14th. The first one is, so glad to have the Norman Skill collection. Great selection. I love the posters. Print more. I like the welcome poster. Thank you. This is great. I think you should put Big Nate, signed by Henry Rivas. Everybody loves Garfield books. You should put them and put a place where you can get a library card. For consideration, it would be good if the library could make up a list of books that are needed here, not just to give and be sold. I want to donate in the future. And that was from Elaine Violin Luzine. And the last one is, would like to form a team of readers who will sterilize covers of books and movies and CD cases. Need to know what to use to kill germs, but not do harm to library materials. And that was Chris Sowell. And I believe someone from our circulation department got back to him or her. And that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I had one more. Staff very helpful with a happy face.
Thank you, Luann.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment for our folks on the phone?
No.
I'll just say that we have a message in the chat from Kirk Enders, who's the construction manager for Turner, that he is on but trying to get audio. So he's part of the next presentation. If Caitlin, if you're comfortable, we could move the treasurer's report up while he's working on that.
Kim?
Yes.
It's Kirk. I'm here.
Oh, okay, great. Sounds good. Okay.
All right, so not necessary. So that will close the public input session, and we will get our construction update. So take it away.
Hi, folks. This is Megan from the architect's office. Since our last meeting, we've had all 5 of the prime contracts issued out of our office and sent to the contractors for execution. I believe at this time, they've all been returned to Tim's office for owner signature. The attorney, your attorney and your insurance agent are just double checking all of the paperwork. They had previously provided all the necessary contract language that we put in the bid documents, but we're having them just double check, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure all of the contract language is correct and the insurance requirements have been met. So we'll soon have Caitlin sign them and then they'll be filed. In addition to that, we have also solicited proposals for special inspections and stormwater pollution prevention plans, which are 2 other components of construction administration that happen now at this phase of the project. So Turner put together a request for proposal. They received a number of proposals and then they reviewed and evaluated them and made a recommendation to Tim. So we now have a special inspector on board that will do the construction inspections as well as the stormwater inspections that are required per the contract documents. And these are an expense that we had previously allocated in the referendum budget, so soft cost expenditures that we knew was coming down the line. So that's set up so that the contractors are ready to move forward. And then Kirk, I'll let you take over and talk about schedule, what's happened so far, and stuff, and what we can expect in the next few weeks.
Okay, so currently right now, we have started working on some site approvals. So clearing and grubbing, preparing to the site for construction, delineating in between the construction area and what would be the library side of the parking lot if you guys have driven by there. Had a discussion on trees, making sure we're all on the same page with what's being taken down and what is being removed. Can you guys all hear me? Am I on? Is this okay?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. And the current schedule, following the proposed schedule from the bid documents, is in review. It was produced from the general contractor and is in the hands of all the other trade contracts for review for final changes and any modifications that need to be made for where it actually becomes our true schedule.
I have some building comments that I could help update everybody with. First of all, thanks to everybody for everybody here who attended the groundbreaking today. It was a groundbreaking. It was that good. And special thanks to Luann, who put it together on the fly and did a really great job, including creating the right weather. Things are happening very fast over there. It's very exciting. We had a staff meeting today just before the groundbreaking, held both in person and virtually, for Kirk and Megan and Paul Mays to update the staff. And it lasted about an hour, but it was surprisingly, there were some good questions, but not as many questions as we thought we would have from the staff. So, day to day, moment to moment, that's kind of a good sign. The watchword for everyone involved here, whether you're on the staff, the board, or even the community, is patience, and the other watchword is flexibility. And the third one is communication. We're trying our best. Things are changing under our feet at times, and so we're reacting quickly. I think one thing that I would mention is that every other week on Wednesday at, I believe currently at 1 o'clock, if I remember right, there's a meeting called an owners meeting. And I think, that's a term in the construction industry. If I understand the law correctly, the equivalent for a not-for-profit, the equivalent of the owners is the board members. And it's not a meeting that we need 11 board members at, or even 3 board members at, but it would be quite desirable to have 1 board member or 2 at each of these meetings. And as I understand it, never having built a building before, it would be best if it was the same board member every time. And but second best would be a rotation. And the construction manager and the architect, I believe, are willing to be a little bit flexible on the day and time. So if we're able to work that out, that would be great. The flexibility that I was talking about comes into play a lot with space utilization within the library. So because the bids came in so low, actually lower than expected, the original construction plan had called for walling off portions of the collection for a week here, 2 weeks there, et cetera, to allow some construction work to take place within them. The plan that's developing in constant consultation between the construction manager, the library leadership, and the contractors, which all have to be coordinated because not only do they all have work to do, but it has to be done in a sequential order, or it doesn't make sense and costs more money because it takes more time. So the original plan was to wall off portions of the collection and to work around them. An alternate plan has been proposed, which involves hiring a professional moving company to put the collection onto specially built rolling carts designed for just this purpose. One of the two companies we talked to has moved 94 libraries in the last 10 years and specializes in this. So on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, we got bids from these two companies, and one of them has been returned. The other we still await. And we will look at those bids in consultation with Megan and Kirk and decide what the most cost-effective way to move forward is. But these bins or carts, whatever you want to call them, are browsable. And the concept is that you would place them in the library in lieu of shelves, and then staff and or patrons could access them in order to retrieve materials. So that's a concept that's going on. After the groundbreaking today, I walked around with Megan and Kirk and several contractors, and we tried to earmark trees that could potentially be saved because we like trees. However, we have one target tree, which is quite large. It's about a 100-year-old willow that is off to the east of the building that we might be able to save. But most of the other trees you're familiar with, if you drive or walk in and out of the library, will be gone as early as next week. Obviously, we're not losing any trees that we don't have to, but we have to lose a lot of trees. So prepare yourselves for that. Another watchword is tiles. One of the first steps of the construction is for a contractor to remove every ceiling tile. So that'll be ongoing starting Monday. And that's actually a kind of a complicated dance, which involves moving staff from one portion of the building to the other for 2 or 3 days at a time, having some people work from home in order to get the whole ceiling open so that all those contractors can access it at the same time and get their work done. So it sounds simple, but it's not. So those are some kind of basic updates on the construction that I jotted down as I was preparing for the meeting today. I think Kirk and Megan might have other things to add. I'm not sure, but all three of us would be happy to take any questions that board members have right now. So. Kirk and Megan, I'm taking it you don't have anything to add that you hadn't already said, correct?
Just the things to look ahead for are the ceiling removals, as Tim just mentioned. Also, in the next few weeks, they'll start the demolition on those 2 multi-hole restrooms that are off the main lobby. So they're going to try to tackle as many different destructive things as possible before the library reopens to patrons, so that we can have as simple a procedure for reopening as possible at December 1st. It's going to be very exciting. There's a lot that's going to happen in the next few weeks. So just what we were hoping to see.
And this is Kirk. Obviously, you know, the project's ramping up. If a lot of people aren't familiar with a construction project, it starts in stages and starts in ramping up and getting manpower in. There's 2 or 3 guys. There's a lot of measuring. There's a lot of that stuff going on in the library right now to get everything finalized. And then as the time progresses, you're going to see a lot more action going on. A lot more information is going to be coming your way as to updates and statuses, how the project's doing. Obviously, it's the early stages. So I just want you to be aware of that and understand that information will be more flowing as soon as this project gets underway, more in depth, right? We have Building A and the bathrooms, as Megan said. Big part of Building A is going to be footings, foundations, steel's coming up, exterior shell. So that's all the steps of that type of building. And then you go into your fit and finishes or how that building is actually going to be looking in the long road for you guys as the project concludes on that section of the building.
Another thing to mention is that I mentioned the biweekly owners meetings. There is also a desire to pull together a building committee meeting soon to update that group, which includes some board members and some staff members. Excuse me. And I believe that Margaret and Jenna were working on scheduling that yesterday, but the work that we're doing in the library right now is you know, you never have a second to sit down. It's that intense. And so I don't know if we've gotten any kind of an invite out for that yet, but we are working on it. So if you're on that ad hoc committee, just watch your email.
Thank
Also,
you, Tim.
Tim, I can attend the Wednesday meetings.
Okay, super. Kirk, are they at 1 o'clock? Is that what I remember?
Currently, they're at 1 o'clock, but it's the beginning of the job. So obviously, we establish those dates and times so it locks people in to knowing that there's going to be a bi-weekly meeting or a weekly meeting. So that time is flexible if you guys need to. If you wanted to go, we recommend a little bit earlier if possible, but absolutely, we're flexible. We're open to you guys.
Okay. So Kathy, offline, if you want, you can let us know if there's a better time. Like, I think you could go as early as 11, Kirk, or is it 11:30 you thought you could go?
We have the meeting at probably like 11 o'clock would be anytime between that 11 o'clock and after. We do have the foreman's and PM meeting that we meet with the trades on the same day. So it's a nice transition in for you guys so that we're not splitting days up or times up. It gives you a flow, a small break, take your phone calls, and then we go right into the next meeting so you guys are aware of what's going on. And it's a perfect update because it's nice and clean. We get information literally right out of the contractors' mouths, and it can get funneled right to you guys right away.
By the same token, my understanding if 1 is the perfect time for you, Kathy, that's when we can do it. So
I'm pretty flexible on time, so
okay.
whatever works for the group.
Should we go with 11, Kirk?
If
I'll let
you
you
guys
guys-
tell me, I'm on site with you guys every day, so.
Why don't you guys, figure this out outside the general board
Okay.
meeting? But
Okay.
I thank you, Kathy, so very much for stepping up to do this. That is tremendous time commitment, and we are grateful to have you on the board to be able to take that on.
Thanks.
Kathy and everybody, it's Rich. I attended the last one. I found it valuable. I'm happy to be the alternate. So Kathy, if you need coverage or anything for those, please just let me know.
Okay, and I think
Standing.
Tim, could we have more than one board meeting more than one board member at the meetings, or is it only supposed to be one board member?
I got to ask Kirk.
I would recommend, at most like 2 or 3 per meeting. You can, it's nice to understand that it is a meeting for all you guys to do, but when you start having that many people in there, it's sometimes difficult.
Caitlin,
Yes, Barbara?
I would encourage Richard, if he can do it, to also do it. It's really, really informative, the entire process. And my philosophy has always been 2 heads are better than 1. So somebody may pick up on something and the other person, might miss it. So if he's allowed 2 or 3, I think I would do it.
If Kathy's agreeable, I'll try and make it when I can. So that's the best commitment I can make. So
Sounds great.
Perfect.
I also would recommend that if you guys do pick a chair for that building committee, that be a person that obviously might want to be on that meeting.
All right, Kathy is our chair, so that is outstanding. Were there any board questions related to our building project while our experts are here on the line? Okay. Thank you, Megan and Kirk. I think that's it for you guys for now. Seems like no one has any questions. So moving on, the treasurer's report. We don't have Anthony on the line tonight. I don't believe. Who do we know who is ending? Yes, Carol. Hi.
Yeah, hi, Caitlin. Yeah, so Anthony, or Tony nor Brian could be here tonight, so the wand has kind of been passed to me. So I'll just give you a quick update on what happened. Highlight, first I want to start off with, we received our first installment of the levy check this week. So we received our $3.7 million, and that has been deposited into the bank. I've been in conversation with Jim Ferranda from Capcom or LPL to reinvest the money like we do on an annual basis, and also with Brian to advise him of that. And hopefully a finance committee meeting can be put together soon so we can decide how the remaining funds that's not being put into the CDs can be held, or decide how they're going to, what you guys want to do with that, with the upcoming construction, where you want to put that money to hold it so bills can be paid and whatnot. So that's pretty much that on that. That kind of made my week. Highlight of my week was receiving that money. As far as the income statement, we're in pretty good shape. I mean, COVID is kind of taking a hit on us, but as far as revenues and things, but things we did not anticipate for gifts and miscellaneous, we did receive some in honor of or memory of Paul Ward, who was a patron, recently passed. So we did receive some donations for his behalf. And also we have in the miscellaneous income, that was a commission from, believe it or not, from 2017 from Better World Books. So I don't know if they had a recent audit and this came to fruition or what it was or what they were doing, but they forwarded us a check, so we kindly took it. Going down to the expenses on the income statement, the material budget looks like we are under budget when in actuality we're a little over budget for the month. There are some invoices that should have been booked in July and August that July, August, September, that I'm just receiving now, and they didn't get into this report. So they'll be put in there and you'll see it in the year-to-date numbers for next month. Programming has a negative balance and a negative expense, weird, but that was just avoiding of a previous program that had been expensed and then didn't happen, and we had to just back it off of the books. So that's why you have a negative number there. Other things, circulation supplies is up. That's all delivered or associated with curbside delivery. What else do we? Attorney fees are a little over for the month, and that again is attributed to the construction projects. And building maintenance and supplies is PPE related expenses, and technology software is attributed to some technology that we've needed to purchase to allow our staff to work from home. So it's some software that I needed to pick up for that. Pretty much it on the income statement. As I said, we're in good shape. This many months into the year, this couple months into the year, I don't foresee any issues going forward. Balance statement, really nothing to speak about other than you're going to see the deferred charges for the renovation. Obviously, is going to continue to increase every month as we continue to get billings from Butler Road and Mays and to the construction. So that number will constantly increase until the project is over. And pretty much all I have to deliver. If anyone has any questions on check registers or either of these financial reports, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you. Okay, that's a good sign. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report for 2020 and the check register for October 2020. Barbara makes a motion. Second by Barry. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, any abstentions? Excellent, so moved. At 6:31. So moving on to committee reports. Kathy, you are up first.
I think we talked about having a building project committee meeting just now, so I guess we'll be scheduling that, and we'll get back to you on the results.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, Carol, did you have any more to add to Brian Beth's finance committee?
I do. I don't know if Carol does. Carol, do you? Okay. So what I'd like to add is that there are a couple of issues that make me think that we want to call a finance committee meeting. And one of them is simply to establish a sense of coordination so that the members of the finance committee understand the process for approving construction-related expenses and understand the different pools of money where the flow, how the flow occurs. It is something that's certainly within the competency of our admin team with Carol, David, Margaret, and myself. But the way I see it, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, the fiduciary responsibility to oversee us belongs to you through that finance committee, and we'd like to get everyone up to speed on that process. There is a separate issue that the finance committee needs to discuss, but I must confess that I do not recall it at this particular moment. It's not as serious an issue as paying the construction bills. I don't know if Margaret or Carol or Caitlin, all of whom I've spoken to in advance of the meeting, recalls that other issue, but I'll probably recall it later in the meeting or tomorrow.
Yeah, Tim, it was only, did we want to continue with you being a single signature on the checks? Or now that we are in the building for the time being, having one of the board members who's allowed to sign come in and be the second signature on those checks? I think that was what you were probably thinking of.
Thanks.
That's what we discussed.
And that's, I guess, ultimately Caitlin's call, but what we would need to do is fill out new, Caitlin, you were our secretary before, so you have a signature card on file at the bank, and I think Noreen and Kathy would need to become signatories, which is a paperwork process that Carol and Jenna can coordinate. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, everyone has to sign again, so we need a new signature card, so it's one card with everyone's signature on it. So we would just have to try to pass it around somehow, because we need original signatures on every line. And then it has to be delivered to the bank. So, but I can coordinate that with Jenna.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we would make a motion to go back to 2 signatures on checks, if the board wanted to do that at this time, or wait for Brian and the finance committee to meet and make a recommendation. Richard.
Yeah, I would just like to ask whether it's necessary. You know, I don't know the level. I know other organizations above a certain dollar amount, they require that. I would like to know what our accountants would feel is best practices in terms of financial controls at this point. And I think we should follow that. I think to put in something burdensome where a board member needs to get there for a small check may not be in our best interest.
Carol?
I can check in with the accountants and ask them what their recommendations would like.
Barbara?
Just from a historical point of view, there used to be a one check requirement And if my recollection is correct, accountants that we've had in the past have recommended that we go to a two-step or two-signature payment.
That being said, Tim is pretty fantastic about finding a way to get those checks signed when he needs to. He is not above stopping at my house and knocking on my door and saying, "I need you to sign this." But typically, it would be done at a board meeting. You usually see someone furiously signing checks as the meeting is taking place, and it gets done in bulk. So there's rarely an instance with our pay of whomever that I would need to go sign a $3 check on an obscure Tuesday. That typically doesn't happen. Yes, Tim?
I do remember the other issue, which Carol alluded to earlier when she was giving the treasurer's report. And that's that, Carol has made a recommendation that we continue with our CD investment program. And we may need a board resolution or a finance committee recommendation to continue that practice. The slight modification, as I understand it, that Carol is recommending, every year for the last 3 or 4, we invest $2.4 million in CDs, and one matures each month for around $200,000, and we use those to cover payroll. So she's recommending that we continue that, but the $600,000 that we typically keep in an account at NBT Bank, we keep there because they have required us in the past to have a minimum balance of $600,000 in order to avoid monthly fees. We would like to have a little more liquidity with that money during the construction project, and Carol has found money market accounts through Capcom, which is the company we do the monthly CDs with, that would pay a higher rate of interest and be more liquid than the current arrangement with NBT. So we didn't want to really just do that on our own authority. We thought it was an appropriate finance committee item. And Carol, I'll certainly give you the floor if you want to correct me. I may not have gotten it entirely correct.
Yeah, the 600,000 that is at NBT is still at NBT, and that is there to waive any fees that we have. That would continue to be there until the board decides to unrestrict that money for that reason. What my recommendation is taking of the 3.7 that we just received, if we invest the 2.4, obviously we're going to have excess money, difference between 3.7 and 3.4. I want to take 600,000 of that and put that in money markets and not put it in our operating account, but hold it in money markets where we would be receiving some interest. And then what you had mentioned, having the liquidity to pay these bills that are under grant money at the moment, to be able to pay those invoices as they come in, have a liquidity, but to be maybe getting a little bit more of interest than we would get at NBT, which is nothing. So that was the clarification on that.
I saw a hand up from Marcia first, and then Barry, and then I believe maybe Barbara.
I just wanted to comment on the signature requirements. By all means, we should talk to the accountants, but on some boards that I am, what we do is we have one person able to sign up to a certain amount, and then 2 people for an amount over that, just as a check, and people feel more comfortable that way when there's a check if it's over a certain amount. But by all means, I think it's an accounting issue.
All right, thank you. Barry, you are on mute.
We were in the middle of discussing 2 signatures of one, and then the subject got completely changed, and it happens too frequently. We need to finish discussing something before somebody changes the discussion. Going back to the 2 signature versus 1, I think proper accounting principles require an organization like us to have 2 signatures. And that is what we've had since I joined the board until, because of the pandemic, we voted to give, because of that, to change it to one signature. If things are opening up now and we're able to get 2 signatures, I strongly believe for proper accounting, we need to get back to 2 signatures on every check.
Thank you, Barry. So what we will do then is, Carol, if you would check with the accountant, I will task the finance committee with giving a recommendation, and we will put it on the business for next month's agenda so that we can have a motion ready to go with the finance committee's involvement. Seeing as Brian is the chair of the finance committee and he is not here this evening, I don't want to go ahead and just make a motion as a board without his presence or recommendation. So we will put that with Carol having a little bit of time to do some research with the accountants and see if there is a threshold number that we need to be looking at, or in general, what those best practices are. From the accountant standpoint, we'll get the finance committee to weigh in, and that will be on the November board meeting agenda. Barbara.
I just want to thank Carol for taking the initiative to get us a little more interest by, potentially switching over to CapCon. Thank you.
All right, so we've got some finance committee things that need to go on before the next meeting, and it looks like in November we'll have some resolutions to make. Thank you, Tim and Carol, for giving the board a heads up and some things to think about over this next month. So moving on to personnel and labor management, Barry, I know that there was a meeting and some contractual issues were discussed. I think we can,
Yes.
if we don't discuss a particular person, and we can speak in some general terms, that this can take place in this session. But anything regarding a particular person's contract, we should reserve for executive session.
I believe that based on the results of the meeting, that we should discuss it in executive session, the entire meeting.
The entire, okay, committee meeting. So those things I know on the board certainly was carrying over some vacation days. Since they are contracts and with labor negotiations and of a particular person, we will move that to executive session. Noreen, policy committee.
For policy, we have a meeting set up October 19th on Monday. The time is 5 to 6. Marcia, I think originally I had told you 4 to 5, so I wasn't clear on that. It's 5 to 6 on Monday, and we will be discussing bylaws.
Excellent. And the idea is right now we have some committees that function together. As you can see on the agenda, that's building and grounds / long range planning and personnel / labor management. Those committees function together, but in our bylaws are separate. They consist of all the same members, so they're just rewriting those sections of the bylaws to combine those committees. Yes, Noreen?
Yes, we will be doing that, and we'll also be talking a little bit about, I think 2 of those committees definitely work well together, but I also want to get the opinion of 2 others, for instance, labor buildings and grounds, and the other one, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out.
Long range planning.
Thank you, yes.
Yeah.
And we'll be discussing if those 2 should be merged.
The labor management and building and grounds?
Yes, because I've heard, I've gotten a few comments about maybe that they should stay separate. So we'll be
those committees are separate. It's personnel / labor management if those 2 are combined, and if building and grounds and long range planning are combined.
Right, but I unless I'm misunderstanding, what I hear is that the personnel and the other one should be together, but the long range planning and building maybe should stay apart for reasons that I want to dive into in the policy.
Sure. So, all right, Barbara, did you have a comment?
Just a comment. I think why the separation between personnel and labor management. And I think labor management was simply meant to do the quarterly meetings with the unions. And so that's why I think there was differentiation, whereas, the personnel committee dealt with contracts, potential grievances, things such as that. But, I'd be open to that kind of a discussion. But that was why the two were separated.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so thank you, Barbara. I don't have all the history of why they were separate, but I do know why they came together. Tim?
I just want to let everyone, especially Noreen, know that at the last board meeting, the administration called for having a working from home / telecommuting policy on the theory that these arrangements might continue to be necessary for, a year or two. And so Margaret and Carol, but especially Margaret, have drafted a policy based on some other libraries' policies, and Chris Lanchanton is reviewing it now. And when that review is complete, we will call for a personnel committee meeting to discuss that.
All right, thank you, Tim. Tim, if you could mute, I will go ahead and read Herb's UHLS update. The Upper Hudson Library System Board of Trustees met virtually on October 14th, 2020 at 4:30 p.m. and was called to order by President Antonio Booth. There is new representation from the Albany Public Library, but the individual was not present on the web, so the swearing in did not take place. 2019 financial review was given to the board by the managing director of the UHY Advisors. He explained his review was not an audit and was not a comprehensive. I'm sorry. His review was not an audit and was not as comprehensive as an audit would have been. He found the numbers presented in the records of UHLS were in agreement with applicable standards. The 2021 budget was discussed. Aid payments are still being received on a sporadic basis at the reduced level enumerated by the governor. It is expected that the final budget will be voted upon at the November or December meeting. Because of the 22.6% reduction in funding for the budget, pay reductions for staff are being proposed. These reductions would be across the board and would be upwards of 8%. Longevity payments must also go, as well as UHLS contributions toward retirement and health care. The latter may be done on a gradual basis. Ulan fees will not be codified for the next year, and once again, a small percentage increase will be passed on to all the member libraries. Director Burke is talking about a 2% increase for the libraries. Your representative noted that if a formula is reached in excess of a small rate, school district libraries must be notified in time to budget before the budget vote. The applications for construction aid have been submitted to the New York State Division of Library Development. The libraries are making progress on the reopening plans, and curbside service will continue. Pandemic planning is now required by the state for school district libraries by March of 2021. Mary Fellows will speak at the November meeting concerning the Racism Task Force. Respectively submitted, Herb Hennings, Guilderland Library Representative. So once again, we thank Herb for going ahead and doing that. And speaking up on our behalf that we need to know what the increase will be for our budgets. Tim, did you get a foundation report from Brian?
I did not, but I can tell you the foundation canceled its meeting last week. There were some commitments that people had elsewhere, and there was not a lot to discuss.
All right, so that takes care of the committee reports from the board. Tim, briefly, do you want to give the highlights from the directors and department heads reports?
Certainly, I will aim for 5 minutes or less, but I want to start with a 30-second or minute of silence for Patsy Patrick, who was the librarian, the director of our library from 1970 to 1973. Thank you. So the library has purchased 11 HEPA air cleaners for different parts of the building and anticipates purchasing 3 more. We did a lot of work on air cleaning technologies and found this to be both the most effective and the cheapest. So those are in operation. They are loud, but that's the price you pay if you want the air a little bit cleaner. So those are on site. Kirk Enders, who you heard from earlier, is on site all day, every day, and has an office in the admin area right next to Luann. I mentioned that the ground breaking was tremendous. It was attended by at least 2 media sources, the Altamont Enterprise and WAMC. A great thing that happened in youth services was the installation of a story walk at Towasentha Park. So this is a book that is basically affixed to a bunch of mailbox posts over a half-mile course, and people can walk along with their young children and read them a story, or vice versa if the child's old enough to read. It's a UHLS program that is done in each of the 29 libraries. We thank the town for helping us with that. I want to thank Luann again for coordinating our participation in the Times Union Top Libraries vote. I believe we moved up to number 3 from, I think, 5 last year, if I remember right. There's a lot of collection evaluation going on under new librarian for the collection, Christina Ronald. So the idea is to weed material that is in bad shape or is outdated, hasn't been checked out for a couple of years, et cetera, so that we don't have to have a place for that right now. It's an ongoing process in every library, but we've intensified it because of the construction. The recent windstorm, we lost 3 of our sheds, but we were able to buy 2 new ones quickly, and we've submitted an insurance claim to hopefully cover that. Friday, I was told, I don't quite know where the miscommunication was, but on Friday I was told we couldn't start our project on Wednesday unless we had purchased a type of insurance coverage called builder's risk. I contacted our insurance agent and found out that he was on vacation until Tuesday, and we were supposed to start construction on Wednesday. Due to his excellent service, we got what he calls the best builder's risk insurance in the business and had it in effect by Wednesday morning. So life is good there. It cost approximately $10,000 for about $10 million worth of coverage. And seemed like there was one other detail related to that. Oh, Patrick Fitzgerald reviewed it for us on short notice from Gervin and Ferlazzo. We have a total now of 892 new users of Hoopla, the ebook service, since April. Exciting to me that we have a new language learning service online, and it's called Pronunciator. The top 5 languages are interesting. People want to learn Italian and French, and they want to learn Igbo, which I will confess I had to look up, but it's a language spoken in Nigeria, and I think it's a reflection of the diversity of our community. So that's the number 3 language. Number 4 language is English, also a reflection of the diversity of our community. And the number 5 is American Sign Language. We also started last month the Learning Express Job and Career Accelerator online program, and that's been used healthily. In Maria Buell and Beth Rienti's PPS department report, you'll see a 5-page list of some of the tasks that people are doing on the work from home. We had that list created in response to the request by some board members to make sure that we could be accountable should we need to be for the work being done at home. Other collaborations with the town include the upcoming Drug Take Back Day next Saturday, and a Halloween celebration and a pumpkin decorating event, both in Towasentha Park. I want to congratulate the PPS department for working so well with the town and vice versa. In the IT report, I'll note that all 3 of those excellent employees managed to take a little vacation time in September, so that seemed relevant with the other discussion about vacation carryover. Thanks to IT for that. And the last thing is that there's a graphic report in your board packet about the third quarter in terms of circulation, particularly electronic circulation. And I just want to highlight two statistics. One is that the use of ebooks by our patrons in the third quarter of this year is up 68%. The numbers were already quite high. System-wide, they're up 49%. And I think that reflects excellent messaging by Luann and Christina Ronald and Michelle Conti and others who work on our social media. And the use of electronic video at our library is up 997%, which is dramatic, of course. System-wide, it's up 552%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Six minutes, I'm sorry, 1 minute over.
So is there a motion to accept the directors and department heads report for September 2020? Richard, second by Noreen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion passes at 6:56. So old business. So after the meeting, it was brought to our attention that the resolution for Bet and Kring was not accurate on its numbers. So we have a new resolution. I will go ahead and read it, and then someone can get started on moving this along. Bear with me. Be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Guilderland Public Library rescinds its resolution adopted on September 24th, 2020, which awarded the general construction prime contract number 1 for the library renewal project to Bet and Kring LLC because of a clerical error in the resolution. Be it further resolved that the board hereby awards the general construction prime contract number 1 for the library renewal project to Bet and Kring LLC in the amount of $2,824,000, along with alternate number 1 metal frame skylight over the children's room in the amount of $99,000, alternate number 2 radiant heat floor slab in the activity room in the amount of $4,000, alternate number 3 sprinkler room in the amount of $40,000, and alternate number 4 reading plazas adjacent to the main entry in the amount of $10,000 for a total contract award of $2,977,000, subject to the execution of a contract by Bet and Kring LLC in a form approved by the library's director. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes the library's board president and/or the director to execute the approved contract with Bet and Kring LLC and such other documents as are necessary to commence the work under the contract on the project, and ratifies any acts already taken by the board president and/or the director in executing such approved contracts that complies with the amounts set forth in this resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Barbara, second by Marcia. All in favor? Wait.
Aye.
Yeah,
I didn't
okay,
say-
aye.
I didn't
Yes,
second.
Marcia?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you didn't second. Sorry.
No.
Motion by Barbara, second by
I'll second.
Richard. I got Richard on the second. And Marcia, your discussion.
I'm thinking that we should not rescind, but we should amend the resolution. The activities have begun and the contracts are formed and about to be signed. If we rescind it, it means that it didn't exist. The error was because the numbers were incorrect. Is that correct? So I think the
That is
better way to
correct.
go, I think the better way to go would be to amend it, not to.
I did not speak with the board, the library attorneys on this, but my understanding is this was their recommendation. And unfortunately, I don't have an alternate option of an amendment.
Okay.
So had I had that, I would have, we would have had something written by the attorneys that alternately I could propose to resolve the situation. This was their recommendation on how to resolve it.
Okay, I'm just making a point. I'll be glad to vote for it, but if you want to talk with the lawyers about it, perhaps at a future date, we can clarify.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yes, Barbara.
I think what Marcia says makes a lot more sense where the things are already in progress, that you would just amend it. But if it needs to be done tonight, I guess we don't have any other option.
Well, you know,
so
we can fix it at a later date, and I don't want to hold it up. I
well,
do think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no. I just the lawyer who wrote this at the firm specializes in construction law, so I think the idea to amend would make a lot of sense. I just you know, I know you are an attorney. I don't know what the common practice in construction is when this happens. They may have had experience with this before, but we don't have to do this as it stands tonight. From what I understand, if you'd rather we wait till the November meeting and do it as an amendment, the board certainly has every right to make that decision.
No, I'm here as a board member and not as an attorney. So, but if
you can be separate.
If the lawyers are comfortable with it, we can always change it. I don't want to hold things up, but I would speak with them because I think amend is the proper word as opposed to rescind. But that's my 2 cents.
All right, Tim. Yeah.
I just want to say that if it's the board's desire, I will certainly contact Patrick, the lawyer, tomorrow. And secondly, I want to thank David Gilliam, our fiscal officer, along with Carol. David caught this mistake, and the much worse consequence would be to have written it for the wrong amount of money. So thanks to David for catching it.
All right, is there any more discussion on the resolution on the floor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jason, do you mind unmuting? I can't see you to see if you're.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Abstentions? So it looks like all in favor and passes at 7:03 p.m. Right. So revised mask policy. Tim, do you want to take this?
Sure thing. So the text of the policy is in your packet. Basically, I heard a recommendation from Upper Hudson that libraries should essentially toughen their mask policies to rule out bandanas, scarves, and gaiters, which are not thought to be as effective, and to clarify that the mask must be worn over the nose and mouth. So those are the changes, as well as the change of adding construction workers to patrons and staff and vendors who enter our building. So those are the changes. Do I need to read the whole resolution? I guess for the record, yes. Okay. So in keeping with executive order, and again, this is amending a policy you previously passed. In keeping with executive order 202.17 from Governor Cuomo, masks are required of all patrons, staff, construction workers, and vendors who enter our building until further notice. If an individual is under 2 years old, they are exempt. If a patron is medically unable to wear a mask, we will make provisions to check out materials and bring them outside for contactless pickup. Masks are the only acceptable form of face covering. Gaiters, bandanas, and scarves are not acceptable substitutes. Masks must be worn over the nose and mouth at all times. The library will provide a mask for anyone who arrives without one.
Thank you, Tim.
I'm just curious, is this policy consistent with what the school does? Did they ban bandanas and the like?
I don't know. It arose for me in discussion with the other directors of the libraries, and it's consistent with the recommendation of that group. I didn't think to check with the school.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know I just kind of looked at like the CDC and also the order that you referenced, and they don't have that same restriction. So, I mean, the CDC kind of says, well, maybe they don't really know if bandanas and things are that as effective. They haven't really been studied, but the mask policy in the executive order is more liberal. So I was just curious where it came from, and if anybody else does the same thing.
In particular, it was recommended by the library director at Bethlehem. And there was general assent, although a vote wasn't taken. The Directors Association is not a voting body, it's an advisory body. So they don't have any authority certainly over us. I'm an equal member to the other library directors. Certainly happy if we need to study it anymore. The previous policy has been effective so far, although to be honest, we've had a couple of staff members who've been a little bit resistant to wearing masks, and we're working on that internally. But this enhanced policy is not in reaction to those employees. It was just felt by me and by others in admin and on the board that I was speaking with that it might be a wise thing for us to do to protect ourselves and our community.
If somebody comes with the wrong mask, you have one for them. I think that was in the policy too.
It's in the policy, and it's true. Right now, we have about 700 or 800 disposable masks on hand. So,
okay.
Yep.
I just want to clarify. Yes, Barry, I see your hand. Just for all the board members, it is in our bylaws that all policy changes must be given to the trustees with 30 days before action by the full board can be taken. So this policy will be actually voted on at the next board meeting. So Barry. And then Barbara.
I just want to clarify. If somebody says that that they're medically unable to wear a mask, we don't just say okay, but we make them stay outside and bring the material to them, correct?
Yes, that's the plan. Of course, it hasn't happened yet because we're not entertaining patrons inside the building.
Yeah, but okay, good. Thank you. That's.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was required, I believe, that we have an alternate accommodation for those patrons.
Yeah.
So we are providing an alternate accommodation. So
I just wanted to make sure we weren't just taking their word for it and letting them in.
Barbara.
I just was wondering between now and November if Tim could find out if it's common practice, say at town hall, other public gathering places, that they wouldn't allow, these other items. I have no problem with the masks, but I want to be consistent with what's going on, in the area.
So if that's the board's desire, I think I'll ask to clarify, school district, town hall, anyone else that you want me to check with, let me know.
All right, thank you. And perhaps since Noreen is having a policy meeting on the 19th, I know that is some short notice for you, Tim, but any information that they can look at that meeting regarding this, I think would be most helpful. Richard. Richard, you're muted.
Two things. I don't think it's critical for this resolution, but it may be for the future. If something is of an urgent nature, is it in our bylaws that we can approve resolutions without that 30-day wait?
So currently there are some pandemic rules that the library director can implement changes to immediate effect in emergency situations.
Okay.
And we had passed that previously, but typically there hasn't been anything so that has been so urgent that it hasn't, it's typically been reviewing old policies, updating them. So in the time being between now and the next meeting, it is within Tim's emergency rights situation to start implementing this, and then we formally adopt with any amendments by the committee at that time.
The reason I asked is when I first heard this, I was wondering if it should really wait a month. And I also really wondered, I hate to see us, just because other organizations in the community are doing something that might be less than the optimal practice, if we should adopt it also. I understand we want to be consistent and we don't want to seem onerous compared with governmental and educational organizations, but I also don't want to see us regress to the, to the wrong standard. And I would be most comfortable, again, speaking as a board member and not a physician, but I would be most comfortable seeing this implemented before 30 days from now, given that we've got flu season, beginning to peak in some areas of the country. I would like to see if there would be a way within Tim's purview to approve this before 30 days.
Tim can start implementing this as a policy under the emergency orders, and then the board would adopt the policy within those 30 days. So he does have the right to start enforcing said policy under the emergency provisions that the board provided him at the beginning of the pandemic. And I think prior to that, actually, when some other emergency situations have come up. Barbara, you're muted.
Sorry about that. While we're looking at bylaws on the 19th, maybe we can throw in a sentence that says we can amend a policy or create a new policy by a vote of the board to bend the rules, so to speak. I know we do that on the school board.
If the policy committee wants to look at in Article 7, Section 2E of our bylaws, which states that all policy changes must be given to all trustees by mail or in person 30 days before any action by the full board can be taken, please do so. And then, of course, that's going to need something about changes to the bylaws also take a considerable amount of time. I'm sorry. They may be repealed, amended, or added to by a 2/3 majority vote of all trustees at any board meeting. Proposed changes must be presented in writing one board meeting prior to the meeting which the action is going to be taken. So if we want to change the mask policy, amend that, Tim can implement it now, but an official change by our board would wait till the November board meeting. And then subsequently, any changes to the bylaws made at the upcoming policy meeting can be officially passed in November or in December, but presented in November. Barbara.
Just a follow-up. I think that the wording usually is a motion to suspend the rules, to move the motion. And if Noreen and the committee can look at that, I think, it really does help in certain situations to have that flexibility.
Okay. Marcia?
If we feel comfortable in having Tim change the rules, I think we have to change the signage to make it clear that only masks are acceptable so that the public is notified.
Absolutely. And I believe Luann can also send something out as well to the patron mailing list. So that being said, I don't believe we can make a motion on this at this time. Policy committee will look at it, and if they're presenting us with something that we're not seeing here, then I think, Barbara, we can use your suspended sentence. I guess your sentence about suspending it to pass it at the November board meeting. Okay. Moving on to new business. Let's change up the order of the agenda. Let's do the passing of the meeting minutes. And Tim, if you would, I guess, start to dial in, let Chris Lanchanton know we're almost up for her. So we'll move on to, is there a motion to accept the minutes of the regular business meeting from September 17th? Richard? Motion by Richard, second by Marcia. Jenna, who is abstaining?
None tonight.
Excellent. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? So moved at 7:17. Moving on to the minutes of the special board meeting, September 24th, 2020. Is there a motion to accept the minutes? Richard, second by Noreen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So moved at 7:18. So new business. Tim, did you want to start on new business?
I do not recall any new business. Did we talk about something and I've forgotten it?
I don't think so. I think we've covered it in all of the conversations that we've already had this evening.
Okay.
So I do want to bring something to the board's attention as it was brought to my attention. So in review of school district libraries and boards of school district libraries, in order for motions to pass, it requires a majority of all of the board members and not just of the board members present. So Jenna and Margaret and Carol and Tim have all looked back at several years of meeting minutes to find what motions this affects. It does not affect any construction project motions at this time. But it does, however, affect some of the contracts for certain particular staff members that were erroneously passed with only 5 board members voting in favor. So in order for any of our board motions to pass, we need 6 in favor regardless of who is at the meeting. There are likely some other instances of meeting minutes being approved that we'll need to go back and look through, but the most crucial at this time is there are some current contracts that were passed that should not have been. So we are going to bring Chris Lanchanton in. I have tried to come up with some questions you all might have and get a recommendation, but I thought it best that the board can speak directly with the attorney on best how to resolve this rather than me being a conduit in between at this point, because I think it is, you know, a serious matter. So because it is of particular person's contracts, we will discuss those things specifically in executive session. But we are all working, myself, Tim, Carol, Margaret, Jenna, and the attorney to resolve this and find exactly what needs to be resolved and the best way to do it. But first and foremost on the table was anything dealing with any sort of payments or monies, and that included contracts. So that will happen in executive session. So I just want to give you a heads up, guys, that is our new business for tonight. Luann, public input.
I have not received any other public input.
Thank you. Is there anyone who is dialed in who has public input? All right. So, is there a motion to enter executive session to discuss and I'm going to get this right. There are several things, so it would be collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or the corporation. Is there a motion? Barbara. Second? Marcia. All in favor of executive session?
Aye.
Aye. So at 7:22, the board will enter executive session with Tim joining us, Carol, Chris Lanchanton, the attorney for the library. Is Margaret joining us? Yes, Margaret is joining us. So I want to thank the members of the public for joining our meeting. That concludes the public portion for this evening. And we'll have Sean take us off live. Thank you.
Stand by.
Do we know whose line ends in 5-1? Is that Chris?
No, I'm actually expelling people right now.
Thank you.
Caitlin, the one thing while we wait for Chris, I texted her when you asked me to, and said, join us in 5 minutes, please. As she hasn't joined us yet, if you want to take care of our 3 personnel actions, we could get that out of the way.
Absolutely, as soon as Sean gives us the go-ahead.
Yep.
Yeah. And we have the committee too.
Yep.
Committee too.
Almost.
Committee too.